Okay, you guys, this one should be a little bit shorter than the last one. So on section 1.5, we're working on adding and subtracting real numbers. So the definitions I want you to get in your notes from your book are going to be absolute value, opposites, and additive inverse. This starts on page 30 in your textbook. So these ones should be all a review. We're going to add and subtract negative numbers together, but we'll do them kind of in slow real time in case you need a little bit more assistance. Just make sure to take some notes. Write any notes to yourself if you need to help you through some of this stuff. So our first example is going to be using a number line to add 3 plus 5. Okay, if I give you a problem on a test, you do not need to use a number line to add 3 plus 5, but you'll see why we're using it when we get into the negatives. So if I was using a number line, I'd start at 3, because that's my first number, and then I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I get 8. My answer here would be 8. Okay, let's take a look at the negatives. If I add 3 plus negative 5, so I'm starting at 3, but if I'm adding negative 5, I need to go left, not right on the number line. So I need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There, I get negative 2. Alright, if I have negative 3 plus 5, I start here at negative 3, and I go 5 to the right because I'm adding a positive number. Positive numbers move to the right, negative numbers move to the left. So 2 would be my answer. So this is equals negative 2. Alright, last one, negative 3 plus negative 5. So I start at negative 3, but then I add negative 5, so I need to move to the left because I'm adding a negative number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That puts me at negative 8. Okay, so let's talk about adding numbers with the same sign. So if we add two numbers with the same sign, we can add their absolute values. Remember, an absolute value is the number, the distance away a number is from 0 on the number line. So if I had the absolute value, let's make this smaller. If I had the absolute value of 4, that's 4. If I have the absolute value of negative 4, it's 4, right? Because if I have this number line here, and I put on these numbers. Oops, let's keep this going. 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's look at negative 4. How far away from 0 is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sweet. Here we go. If I have positive 4, how far away is that from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's what absolute value means. We're talking about how far away a number is from 0, okay? So if I'm adding numbers with the same sign, I add their absolute values and keep the sign. So if I wanted to do like 3 plus 4, I mean, hopefully you would just know that that's 7, right? Because that's how you add. If I had negative 3 plus negative 4, what the absolute value of negative 3 is 3, and the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So I can add 3 plus 4, which would give me 7, but I have to keep the sign since they both had the same one. So I get negative 7. Okay, adding values with different signs. So if we're adding numbers with different signs, we want to subtract their absolute values, and then the sum is going to have the same sign as the one with the greatest absolute value. So it sounds a little bit confusing, but let's do this. If I have negative 3 plus 4, the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. The absolute value of 4 is 4. Now if I do the biggest number minus the smallest number, so 4 minus 3, I get 1. But then it says to keep the value, or the sign of the biggest number. So 4 is bigger than 3, and the 4 is positive here. So that means my answer is going to be positive. I get a positive 1. If I have two negative now if I have the negative number is higher, the absolute value of 3 is 3, the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Now if I take the bigger number and subtract the smaller number, I get 1. But negative 4 and 3, 4 is bigger than 3, and 4 has a negative sign. So I get -1 here for that answer. Okay, so try to find these sums. Hopefully this is pretty intuitive for you, and pause it and I will write out the answers when we're done. Okay, let's do D together just in case you've forgotten. Okay, I can't add these things together. They have different denominators. I want to see what 4 and 6, what those could both multiply to. And if I thought of 12, right, how do I make 3/4 be something over 12? Here I'd have to multiply it by 3, so that means I have to do the same to the top. So I get 9/12. So 3/4 becomes 9/12. Now let's do this one. If I have 5/6, because that's the absolute value, right? 5/6. If I want to make that something over 12, I'd multiply this by 2. That means I need to multiply the top by 2. So I get 10/12. So here I have 9/12 plus a negative 10/12, right? And if we're following the absolute value situation, I would take 10/12 and 9/12, and I subtract. 10/12 is bigger than 9/12, right? So I'd get 1/12. But what one has the biggest sign? What's the biggest number sign? Well, this is the biggest number and it's negative, so that means that this has to be -1/12. All right, let's talk about the inverse property of addition. It says for every real number a, there's an additive inverse negative a, so that when I add a and negative a, I get 0. Pretty easy when we write it out as an example. This just means if I had 3 and I added -3, I get 0, okay? And then when we're talking about subtracting, so if we want to subtract real numbers, we can just add its opposite. So this here says a minus b is the same as a plus -b. So if I had 3 minus 5, I could rewrite that to be 3 plus -5, and then I could follow the rules that I learned before, right? So if I take the absolute value of 3, I get 3. The absolute value of -5 is 5. And then I subtract them, right? Because one is positive and one is negative. So bigger number minus the smaller number, which is 2. But then I need to compare this and this. 5 is bigger than 3 and 5 has a negative sign. So I have to use the negative sign to get -2 there. Okay, so try these ones to solve them, and then we will go over them quickly. Okay, first one, -8 minus -13. Some of you may have learned it that if you have a negative, you can just turn it to a plus sign, right? So I'd get -8 plus 13. Hopefully you get 5. 3.5 minus 12.4. Remember, I could rewrite that as 3.5 plus -12.4. Then I can take the absolute values if I want to, if I need some help solving these out. It's not super intuitive. My absolute value of -12.4, 12.4. Remember, these have different signs, so I need to subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. So 12.4 minus 3.5 should give me 8.9. And then I'm comparing signs here, right? 12.4 is bigger than 3.4 and it has a negative, so then this is -9.8. 9 minus 9. Hopefully you got that to be 0. You could write it as 9 plus -9 and solve it out that way if you so choose. So that's all for this lesson. Email me if you guys have any questions or need anything written out further.